Welcome to MarketPulse, Pros and Pioneers. Each week, we talk with industry leaders in both marketing and entrepreneurship and business to find out all about their wins and failures in marketing. Right now, we'll hear all about their successes and wins and what's fallen flat so that you can take that knowledge and implement it. Learn from the best, from the folks who've been there and done it all, as well as people just like you. Thanks for joining us. This is MarketPulse, Pros and Pioneers.
And welcome to this week's MarketPulse Pros and Pioneers, where I'm kindly joined this week by the fantastic Leanne Kinde. Leanne, thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for telling me how to pronounce your name, so I'll make sure I get it right on the very first episode, because once I've said your name 3 times, that's it, I'm gone. So, Leanne, I love the line that you lead with, which is that words are freaking magic. And we're going to delve into that in a little bit. Leanne runs Single Spark Coaching and Copy. You've got a passion for writing, you've got a passion for copy, and you were brave enough to leave your main job behind, leave paid employment behind, as so many of us do, all right, and take that leap of faith into starting your own business. And so before we get too detailed into the marketing side of things, would you be kind enough to just share a little bit of that journey for those of the audience that are out there who might be on a similar sort of path?
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe almost 6 years ago now. As I was at a corporate job, I was inputting the same 12 codes every single day. It was really horribly monotonous. It just wasn't my dream by any stretch of the imagination. Soul sucking is a great way to describe it. So I knew things had to change. And actually, the perfect trifecta of 3 things came together that helped me do that. And I quit drinking. I had my son, and I found coaching, and all 3 of those things coming together at once really gave me the motivation to finally do something about it and to finally make some moves. So it's been great ever since. Yeah. Once I stopped drinking, I just really had that clarity that I didn't want to. I faced up to what I was feeling. I faced up to what my life was really like. So it got me very honest and radically honest with myself. When I had my son, I just felt like I want him to be proud of me. And when I tell him he can go after his dreams, when I tell him he can do anything he wants to do, I want to mean that. And I'm not going to feel very genuine if I'm inputting 12 codes every day when I say that. So I really wanted to strike out and do my best for him. And just finding the coaching industry, that was something that really helped me get my mindset in a good place. It helps me really work on myself to have that motivation.
So on that note, there's a very interesting story that perhaps gives a bit of confidence and a bit of motivation to other people who are out there as to why you got started. Because copywriting for coaches, that's quite a niche area to be involved in. And I speak to a lot of people who are scared of niching down. They're scared or picking that one little ballpark that they can play in. How did you get involved in that in the first place?
So it followed my alcohol-free journey. I actually just felt like at the beginning of my alcohol-free journey, I was finding a lot of resources that actually discouraged me or made me feel even worse about everything. It was just all very black and white, very you have a problem or you don't. You might have a lifelong disease that you'll have to deal with every single day. And this is going to be a bummer every single day for the rest of your life. And it just wasn't resonating well with me. I wanted to quit and I wanted to have a good outlook on it. I'm like, I want to do something great for myself. So I actually Googled positive podcasts about not drinking. I found my biggest client. I still work with her. And I had no idea she was a coach. So I just started listening to her podcast and I read her book. And it was an awesome book, awesome podcast, put a very empowering spin on everything, just about doing things for your health, doing things for your own well-being and confidence and self-worth. I found her that way. Had no idea she was a coach, found out about like halfway through her book or so. And then I really loved everything she was doing and how she was framing it and how she was helping people in a really unique and refreshing way. So I reached out to her to see if she needed a writer. And I loved writing for her so much that this is it. This is my niche.
It's a fantastically inspiring story because I'm a big believer, and I've actually just recorded, so I do video newsletters. So I start with a video and I turn that into a newsletter. And today's newsletter, I had 5 minutes to record something. And today's newsletter was on the subject of finding your passion. Because I get a lot of people come to me and they want to do video. Video is you've got to be even more engaged with it to get it right. But writing and copy is exactly the same. You've got to have that passion and enthusiasm. And if that shines through in what you're doing, then your content will be so much more compelling. And it's refreshing to hear somebody who's been on that journey, found your passion almost through serendipity, right? That's a fantastic story. You never know where your inspiration is going to come from. And great to see that you found something that you thoroughly enjoy. I guess you were at a point though where you almost gave up on your dream. Like you wanted to do this, and a lot of us go through that phase, right? A lot of small business startup entrepreneurs go through that. It's always darkest before the dawn, right? So can you talk us through that a little bit and how you felt when you went through that point? Is there any tips you can give to other people to help them through the same point?
Like, I actually started out in my early 20s, mid 20s, really going for it and really trying to break into writing and freelancing and making money that way. And I just wasn't having any luck. So that's when I went back to my corporate job. That's when I got the soul-sucking job. And I just did it for a steady paycheck. And after 6 years, which I don't know why I quite got sucked into that hole for so long, I returned to freelance writing, and then I started my own business writing. And gosh, like I said, those three things really made a huge difference for me. What else made a huge difference for me is that I knew I hadn't really given it my best shot. I had given it half as an effort. I had tried it and I was like, I did good enough. I did well enough, but I hadn't really put my best foot forward. And when I tried it next time, what I did is and I'm still going. My business is going and I'm happy about that. But what I did radically different this time is I committed to a time frame. I'm like, I'm going to give it a year and I'm going to go all in and I'm going to do everything I can possibly do to make this work. And I know that sounds simple. It made such a difference, such a radical difference. So I recommend people pick a time frame, pick 6 months, pick a year and a half, whatever you can do, whatever you can manage, and really go all in and give it your best effort. I wanted to know if I was going to give up on my dream, that I'd tried my hardest and it didn't work out. I didn't want to think I'd half-ass this, and then I just gave up. So yeah, I committed for a time frame. And it really made all the difference.
What I'm hearing there is accountability, whether that's self-imposed accountability, if you're strong enough of will to do that. And something I say to people a lot is just make your audience help you be accountable. Get it out there. Tell them what you're going to do. Tell them how long you're going to give it and that you need to be a success. And it's surprising how much support you get when you're willing to be that open and transparent with people. Moving then back towards the marketing and specifically around copies. People who know me know that I do a lot of work with video and video repurposing, but I'm a big fan that video content is only as good as the copy that accompanies it. You need that copy there to tell the story and help highlight the key points. And also, a lot of people don't resonate with video. You've got to cater for both. And for me, the two work really hand in hand. But your catchphrase, words are freaking magic. I love that. Do you want to share a little bit more about what it is about copy that really gets you excited and how that works for you?
Ever since, my whole life, words have had a really special place in my heart. I had a kind of a messy childhood with just my parents had a really dramatic divorce. So I started journaling when I was young, and it really helped me make sense of the world around me. It really took what felt very fragmented and chaotic and just made it into just something I could process and go through and make sense of. And that it made all the difference for me, really. And as I was in college, as I was in school, I realized it's not just journaling and it's not just me, and that this can really have, ripple effects on the whole world, really. I know it sounds cliche, but it's 100% true that words have this amazing ability to reach people, to heal, to inspire people, to help people connect. It's really just an amazing medium. And I love it.
I think probably something that a lot of people struggle with in terms of copy, which is why I'm a big fan of video first a lot of the time for people, is we struggle to convey our emotions or to touch on the emotions that we want to trigger in other people through copy. Is that something that, or it sounds like that's something that particularly inspires you, that ability to create emotions or feelings from other people, right?
Yeah, that's something that absolutely particularly inspires me. And that's something that people try too hard. People sit there and come up with almost like a college thesis or a moral of the story and then try to prove it. And that takes away from some of the authenticity, some of the heart of what you're doing. I would say when you're inspired, when you're feeling it, just sit down. Free writing is a great exercise, which is setting a timer and just writing whatever is on your mind, not worrying about grammar, not worrying exactly about how you're saying it. Doing that for 5 to 10 minutes is a great way to get an unfiltered version of what you're thinking down on paper. You can imagine just having a conversation with a friend, things like that. You can journal. All of those things are great precursors or great ways to unlock the really authentic heart of it versus, I think people end up, unfortunately, getting into high school essay mode if they think about a premise or a moral of the story too much.
That's it. That's great advice, because one of the things that I get asked a lot, and it doesn't matter what kind of content you're creating, people come up against the same stumbling block as, this is all great, but where the hell do I start? So some great advice there for people to come up with some ideas for how to get started. Something that's quite prevalent at the moment is ChatGPT and AI. Is that something that you've embraced? Do you dabble in it for ideation and things? Does it have a place in your workflow, or are you completely organic?
And if you want to create a list of 5 statistics or 5 pointers that are just that, you can do that. If you want to create high school essay level stuff, you can do that with ChatGPT. And as for me personally, I just love writing. I do. I genuinely love it. It's an art for me. It's something I deeply respect. So it's something I want to be doing.
That's lovely to hear, though, no, because a lot of people right now are scared for their jobs. They wrongly assume ChatGPT or any large language AI is going to take their jobs away from you. And my answer is exactly how you've just said that. If your job is to create bullet points you don't put any effort into and you don't put any soul into, then it's probably going to take your job away. But if you add a human element into your job, it can't replicate that. It never will be able to replicate that the way a human can. So that's fantastic to hear. I guess that leads nicely into our 2 MarketPulse questions that we ask every week in, week out. So starting with the first one is, what's one marketing tactic, tool, or process that you wish people would just stop using? What do they need to quit while they're ahead?
I don't know if I would call it a marketing tool per se, but what I think people in terms of marketing should stop right away is definitely watering down their messages. So I feel like people come in and they have such creativity, they have such personality, they have such emotion, and then they overthink it. They get in their heads. And then all of a sudden, this amazing, great message is, but how can I make that a little bit more palatable for everyone? How can I make that more acceptable for everyone in the world? They take this great premise they started with and just water it down to the point where it's almost not recognizable anymore. And the first, I would say, if nothing else, in good marketing, stand out.
Yeah.
So definitely don't water down your message. And 2, I would say it's natural. It's really natural. So we evolved as pack animals. It's natural to have that fear of rejection. It's natural to want to fit in and want to blend in, because ages ago, that was a matter of survival. If you didn't fit into the tribe, you might have died, literally. But we're past those times. Yeah. And now it's really important just to stand out. And that's how great things happen. And I really do think the heart, compassion, the empathy, the vulnerability, like that all happens when you take that fear of rejection, take that fear of everyone not liking you, take that people pleasing out of the equation. definitely stop watering down the great messages you start with.
Absolutely. Indifference kills businesses. Don't blend in and be vanilla. And is actually one of my New Year's resolutions for this year for the business was, I don't do personal New Year's resolutions, but for the business was, I was going to be more polarized and opinionated this year, because I do have opinions and I can be polarized, and I choose not to be because in my head, I'm still very corporate. It's only 6 years, 5.5 years since I was in a corporate job. And I spent 15 years there being told what I could and couldn't publicly say. And it's very hard to get that out of your system and deal with it. I've done a good job of upsetting some people this year. So I think I'm on the but you're absolutely right. Be different. Dare to be different. And as the Americans say, it doesn't work in England because we pronounce it differently, but the riches are in the niches, right? We pronounce it niche in the UK, so it really falls apart when you say it here because everybody just laughs at you. But it's absolutely where it's at. Yeah, it goes back to what I said at the beginning around you're a copywriter for coaches. Normally I'll come across people and I'm a copywriter, but I work in lots of different industries and I do a bit of insurance and I do a bit of this and I do a bit of that. Well, how do I refer you to someone? I don't know. Now that you've told me that you're a copywriter for coaches, right? Okay, I know a coach that needs copywriting skills. I'm going to make an introduction. It's easy. So that's fun. On the flip side of that, then, what's one thing that you wish people would start doing? And it can't be the opposite of the one you've just said.
I really do think there's like a mindset shift that needs to take place where people just think of certain traits like empathy and vulnerability and things like that as positives. And as you said, being in corporate too long can tamp that down and make you not see things that way. But in marketing, vulnerability, compassion, all of that stuff that might be seen as a weakness is really a positive and is really going to help you connect with your audience. I would say focusing on what they can control versus what they can't control, because I've seen so many people get caught up, honestly, sometimes even on just one post and the algorithm. And I would never, ever recommend doing that. One post in the algorithm doesn't matter ever. Trends matter over time, but a single post flopping is not going to kill your business ever. What I would say is definitely focus on what you can control and then detach from the outcomes and focus on putting your best foot forward. Focus on the strategies that you can improve. Focus on the things that you can do better, where you can improve. And then as for the outcome, just detach from it.
See, I think creating content's quite hard for people to do because we're almost trained into this way of being withdrawn into ourselves and keeping ourselves private and not oversharing and not sharing too much. And you've got to unleash some of that. And you've alluded to this already, is you've got to unleash some of that inner you and let some of it out. Not all of it, because too much for people to handle a lot of the time, but a little bit of it. And then let it loose in your content. But to your point, exactly. Do you know what? People worry about things like comments and likes and how much engagement a post had. I'm like, what does it matter? Because the people who are engaging with it, they're not your clients. Your ideal client won't engage with it because they don't want people to realize that they need your services and to start spamming them to death, because that's exactly what happens. If I mention YouTube on LinkedIn, I get 150 people in my inbox the next day saying, I can sort out your SEO for your YouTube channel if you want. Or I don't care about the SEO on my YouTube channel. Yeah. So, yeah, no, that's fantastic advice. Leanne, it's been an interesting conversation with you. Is there anything else any last thoughts that you want to leave the audience with? And also, if you can let people know how they can contact you if they're interested to find out a bit more. I do have a lot of coaches in my personal LinkedIn audience, so I've no doubt there'll be plenty with their eyes on this episode. How can they reach you if they're interested?
Yeah, absolutely. Is there one last thing I want to say? I would say, and this sounds like straightforward advice, but I urge people to follow it. As a copywriter, I've noticed people aren't tracking things with they should. It's a one little shift that can make such a big difference. And I just see people not doing it or neglecting it. You can do this in an Excel spreadsheet. You can do it in an app. There's so many tools out there to do it, but make sure you're tracking what is resonating with your audience, and then you can do more of that. So I see people being like, oh, this post didn't do well, and I don't know why. So to get in touch with me, I'm on LinkedIn, obviously, Leanne Kinde there. You can go to my website, www.singlesparkcoachingcopy.com. And within the next 2 weeks or so, I'm going to have a newsletter as well. So you can sign up for that.
Perfect. Thanks very much for being a fantastic guest, Leanne. It's been a joy having you on. And thank you for everybody at home who's come along, watched us or listened to us on the show. We'll hope to see you again next week on MarketPulse Pros and Pioneers. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for joining us for today's show. Hope you enjoyed it. If you would like to feature on a future show, or you've got some ideas for folks who would make a great guest, please drop us a line. The contact details are in the show notes. We'd love to hear from you. Your host today was Paul Banks, founder at Javelin Content Management. Javelin specializes in helping busy business owners just like you to repurpose video content, taking all the stress and tech problems away, and turning your long-form video into literally hundreds of pieces of content without breaking the bank. If you want to launch your personal brand, become the vendor of choice for your audience, or maximize your sales revenue impact, we'd love to hear from you. Join us next week for the next episode, and don't forget to give us a subscribe and a review. Our podcast is only possible with your support.